Just getting them all out of the way.
Yeah.
You do realize that when I start the stream, if you do that we lose monetization immediately. You have to save it. Did you know that?
You know what's funny is the other day I posted.
I like to think I do.
I posted an unlisted video of my band's rehearsal, Mars, Venus, Moon, of a song that the Millions recorded like back in 2005, and we got, just from the recording of what we were doing, we got you will not be able to monetize this video. They could tell what song we were playing.
Right. Oh, you could actually make out the actual tune.
And evidently.
That's impressive.
I know. I was like, this is just like a room mic rehearsal. And they're like, yeah, that's Island of You by the Millions. Pay up. And I was like, I am the Millions.
You haven't whitelisted your channel?
It all goes through. There's a couple different publishing houses that have rights, and they don't.
Very complicated.
Yeah, I feel like it's been outsourced a couple times.
Sure.
Like, when we published it originally, it was pretty hard to do publishing.
Right.
So we split the rights with a guy who had all the connections. And so now I think that he probably sold some.
All right, 20 seconds, guys.
Okay, excellent.
Thanks, Seven.
And let's bring in Johnny Million. Hi. Hey, there he is. Look at that. That was a good rate. Hello. All right, it's very exciting. Oh,
Even
man.
outside, it's packed.
Oh, man, there's so many people in there. It's just great.
Even outside, it's packed.
Look at all the people here tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
Johnny Million, first of all, right out of the gate, and everybody in Chicago, I want to wish you a very, very Merry Christmas. Starting sometime in the next 12 hours and lasting till about Tuesday, when you're like, where does all this cardboard grow? Like, I think the best gift you could give someone.
It is. It becomes a cardboard distribution math problem.
Yeah. Well, I would argue that the best gift you could probably give someone, a little stocking stuffer, is a little coupon that says, I will take care of all the boxes.
Nice. I thought you were just going to say box cutter.
Yeah, right. No, it's always been a rough thing for America, both at the rise of Amazon and all this stuff and the amount of boxes that we're now awash in. And, of course, our long and storied, complicated history with box cutters in this country. It's an awkward time around the holidays.
It's very complicated.
A lot. Yeah,
I had a big Christmas show yesterday. Maybe I'll be able to share some pictures of it. I had like a big, hey, look, it's Freddie Fuswell, who's been daring me to say his name live on the air, spelled the way it's spelled.
Oh, I see. That's the real name.
I don't know.
That's
I have my doubts.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. Because I have my, there are a couple of live streams that I check in on, both on what's happening in Israel and Gaza and what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, what's happening in Sudan, what's happening in the potential buildup, the forever never ending edging experience of Taiwan and China, and all these, there are a series of guys who just can't. They give money to all these things because they all watch the same thing. I see these same people in the chat in different groups, and they're let's just say they have all those funny names that you try to get somebody to read in the announcements at school when you're in high school.
Like Dick Fitzwell.
Yeah, right, exactly. Richard, if you will. Yeah, and good on him, by the way. Merry Christmas, Richard. And he lives a tortured life. It's really, because
he does.
Yeah, because it turns out to be an ironic name. The important thing, though, is is that these guys, several of these guys are so serious in the topics they're talking about because they're military guys. They never, no pun intended, they never see it coming. They just don't, they keep reading them just blindly. It doesn't register, which is amazing to me. I mean, I guess that's what That's what blinders is. You know, that's the you get so yes, everybody's saying them in the chat room. We get them. Thank you.
People are, oh, I like
They're
Anita
throwing
Man.
them in there.
See, now that's nice. That's tidy, Bob. I like Anita Man.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's complicated. William Decker says.
Yeah, I saw that one. I saw that.
Itself?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Hurts off. Hurts us off. It's hard to. You have to run it all together because it's very. We're gonna get in trouble reading
Andrea
these. You can't.
in the chat is apologizing to me for not telling me about her medical emergency directly.
See, that's how lovely the people we have in our chat is. That's I mean,
right.
if you need a better example of the fantastic, like charming, generous, and wonderful nature of everybody who shows up in the chat for the show, I don't know if there's a better one than
all
that.
I know is that I felt very slighted to not
also
be...
mildly codependent, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
mildly.
So yes, and by the way, let me tell you, Andrea, never apologize to Johnny Million for not showing up. It's just don't do it.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, it's his thing. It's consider it like you're just the karmic boomerang for a myriad of other circumstances in his life, you know? Because I think that's like, look, I was going to apologize for screwing up your weekend, but you've screwed up so many people's weekends. I feel like I owe it to the universe or something. Yeah. So I'm just going to let it stick. By the way, for the record, Johnny has never ruined a single weekend of mine. I would like to make that clear on the air. Now,
thank you, Hal. Right back at you.
Yeah. Speaking of, I
have to get your dad's house a couple times.
Well, only with a bass pedal that, or a drum pedal that dug into the floor and required a massive amount of sanding and refinishing, which I did. But it's all right. You know, you guys didn't have to stick around for it. I just had to live in dust for a month. It's high school. So we have, I don't know if you know this, but in the great Antifa-fed Jan 6 unfolding of insiders and maggot whisperers who, you know, all the maggots were just there to be heard and be patriots. And then somebody walked up, an Antifa-fed informant and agent snuck up on them when they were caught in the throes of passionate patriotism, whispered in their ear. And but for that moment, they would have never beaten cops and stole their guns and their nightsticks and their shields and whatnot and attacked other police and the like. Well, it's been a bad week for that storyline. Yeah. So Matt Gaetz and a bunch of Republicans, and including Donald Trump and I think even Don Jr., posted about these specific videos of these guys who were bashing in the windows at the Capitol and were engaged in violence against the cops. And they pointed out that, like, these guys were in black clad outfits and they were, you know, they were clearly Antifa, you know, youngins, probably BLM, yuck, right? And probably. And they decided, apparently, to go deep undercover, you know, as maggots on Jan 6. And they, you know, gained a bunch of weight and got type 2 diabetes, started smoking. Many of them,
I'm on my way.
Most of them, you know, started reading really small text, so they would need glasses, you know, so that people wouldn't realize how young they were. You know, they just had to hide it, right? And then they, in their, I guess, to complete their plan, they dressed all in black to look vaguely Antifa-esque on the day in a kind of counterpunch thing that would cause this back and forth. And one of these people, two of them got arrested. They posted bond and they have yet to do their plea. Well, one of them has pleaded guilty. The other one is not entered a plea yet. And that fella is from Illinois.
Who's that?
Yeah. His name, and somebody out there might know this fella. His name is William Lewis. Bill to his friends, and
not
Bill,
Dick.
Yeah, Bill. No, not by any means. Bill Lewis showed up in you know, dressed all in black because I guess he was going to hunker down in the Capitol during nightfall and pounce on somebody. All, you know, 232 pounds of him in it. You know. Anyways, so I will show it on the stream right now. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah.
Oh, look, Freddie's dropping super chats. All
Oh,
you gotta
thank
do
you.
is carefully say his name on the air, and all
Properly.
of a sudden his wallet opens up.
Beautiful. Yeah, and by the way, you guys are the reason the show is on the air, so patreon.com/HalSparks is a great Christmas gift. And also, like, subscribe. That's the easy part. It's free. Unless you're on Twitch, in which case it does cost money, but if you have Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you a dime. And what else? Oh, yeah. And super chats and stars on Facebook. It's a very strange thing, but it does help. Also, if you're on Facebook, use the frowny face angry emoji to describe the, in those options of moving emojis they give you to describe. Always use the angry one because anger works better.
I always do
Facebook.
that with friends of mine who I haven't talked to in a long time.
Yeah.
If they post something innocuous on Facebook, I will go ahead and just reply to it angrily.
Yes. I think that's wise because it draws it.
Yeah.
It boosts it in the algorithm.
Attention.
Yeah, in a way that other things don't. Now,
why is John angry at my picture of a squirrel?
Why does it even matter? I don't care. So I will show you in this moment, if I may. There is. Let's see if I can put it. I'll put it up on the stream so people can see it. But there's a guy, and it's in this picture. I don't know if you can see it, Johnny Million. But this guy is holding a police baton, and he is using it to smash open a window at the Capitol. He is also wearing what looks
it's got one
like
of those handles on it there.
What looks like a black store-bought military or police jacket that gives you the illusion that you're a police officer. Curiously enough. Now, this guy, William Lewis, who's from Burbank, Illinois, he came to the Capitol that day as he was just going to walk down there peacefully and patriotically. Now, he was carrying a backpack full of bug spray because he either couldn't read the memo or he read it wrong or he just couldn't get his hands on any bear spray. So he brought hornet and wasp spray, which is far more damaging, toxic, and permanent when you spray it in a human being's eyes than even bear spray is, for the record. He brought that down there, and he sprayed that in the face of police officers, allegedly, because he has not offered his plea yet, but there was a bolo out on him for an attack on a federal officer. He sprayed that, and then he took their baton, and then he broke windows. And Matt Gaetz and all these folks have been saying that this dude is Antifa posing as a maggot, trying to get Donald Trump in trouble. Well, that's a big surprise to this guy, who has been a dedicated poster and supporter and booster of Donald Trump. And the other guy that's in the video with him, which got an equal amount of attention, you can see him in the picture that I posted online right next to him. He's in a black jacket, hoodie pulled up. He's got a hunting cap underneath it, so you can see the camouflage brim. So if he tries to hide in a bush, he can duck his face down, I guess, is the strategy. Didn't work out very well. But I'll tell you that guy's story after we come back, because he's been accused of being Antifa, and he's going to jail for 3 years. So apparently, when Trump says, who's locking up all these Antifa people, all these BLM people? Well, I guess they got this guy, right? Right? We'll be back right after this. It's the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, Christmas Eve edition with 100% more Johnny Million. Yeah. That's that guy. So, chat room, that's William Lewis. That's the Antifa guy, allegedly, who is wearing I guess one of his Glenn Beck official merch neck goiter cover or whatever.
And he's got those "Not My President" sunglasses.
That's right. That's right. The ones that everybody wears on their head but barely ever put down,
or the back of their neck.
Yeah, right. This is the other guy. Everybody thought this guy was Antifa because he comes there. He's wearing, he's got body armor on. He's got I don't know who this is attached to. It might just be for show, but he has a walkie-talkie for communicating for these things.
Who's he talking to? Hand me that walkie-talkie.
Well, we're going to find out because he pled guilty, and part of that is he's going to have to, I guess through the elocution, he's going to, he's going to have to admit everything that he participated in and whoever he participated with.
60 seconds, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a guy named Paul Orta. Oh, yeah. Jonathan Munafo. And this is the saddest one. This is the saddest one. This has got to hurt Trump deeply. I'll show you why in a minute when we come back. But it's got to be rough. Oh yeah. Jonathan Munafo. Everybody's like Hispanic. I don't know. I guess it could be Italian. Johnny Munafo.
Sure, or like Lion King.
Oh yeah, sure. Right. Yeah. It could. He's a voice actor. He played one of the meerkats.
Wasn't Munafo?
10.
I
don't know. I think
Mufasa.
I think it's Mufasa. I think Munafo you can't actually say on the air because it's an Italian slur. And we might
Welcome
not
back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Now, after Illinois native William Lewis getting busted and having a double strike against him, on the one hand, he's going to go to jail for a long time for assaulting a police officer, and I guess it would be like first-degree assault because he showed up there to cause harm. He brought... Also, who's bringing cans of bug spray to a Trump rally? Is that part of the Trump smells thing? Is there a thing like, are we just not aware because we've never gone? Are there lots of flies at Trump rallies because of him not changing his diaper like Kinzinger says? And you know what I mean? Maybe this guy was like, I want to sit close, but whoo, right? I got to bring some.
I'm going to need me some bear spray.
Yeah, right. So the other guy in this, and this one's got to hurt a lot. Not only is he not Antifa, not only is he not a Fed, not only is he not even an informant. This guy, let me tell you what he's been convicted of punching a Metropolitan police officer twice and stealing the officer's riot shield while other people were beating him. And he was right next to this guy when he smashed the window. And this is one of the big videos where you have to understand these two guys are kind of pivotal because they are specific to the narrative that they've been pushing, that this was all a Fed setup and that everybody was driven to do it. And these two guys are like the poser Feds in Antifa clothing, like the Feds wouldn't know to dress like a regular maggot. That part I don't understand, whatever. Who smashed the window and went, follow me. And therefore, people who followed them are just innocent victims of being, I don't know, I just got caught up in the cop beating.
Somebody in the chat, looks like Robert Polizzi has a good idea that it's like the Rocky Horror Picture Show where you bring props and you know the part that you play.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you bring rice or you bring a squirt gun or whipped cream yeah, right. Well, this guy, again, beat a police officer and like struck him twice, took his shield while other people were beating him, for the record, like participated in a group ass kicking of a police officer. So hashtag back the blue, I guess. And this guy smashed the window with this other guy, and they were both like, this is evidence that Antifa started this whole thing, and we wouldn't have done it if Antifa hadn't used their mind control MK Ultra, whisper hypnosis on us. We would have just stayed outside and had a cookout and sang,
and here I am
hymns.
surprised that no Scooby-Doo episode ever ended with that.
What?
That plot point.
Yeah, this guy is also known as a Front Row Joe. That's right. For those of you that are, familiar at all, or aren't familiar, I suppose, where the Front Row Joes are the people who go to multiple Trump rallies and try not to miss a one. Some of them have seen 90 of them. They stack them. They go, and by the way, they gack up the first 5 rows now of Trump's little mini gatherings in gymnasiums, muscling out actual voters from the districts, which is the hilarious part. Oh, there she goes.
Oh, now you're quiet?
I'd like to, yeah, I'm trying to pet her. Anyways, we had a cat show up on the stream. So this guy is a Front Row Joe. He's one of the people that's always in the front row of Trump gatherings. I don't call them rallies anymore because there aren't enough people, and he's not actually rallying anybody because that would be voters in the district. It's just all these deadheaders that are following him around the country. And this guy, Jonathan Munafo, is a front row Joe and clear as day. And here's the thing. This has got to be the weirdest thing for these idiots. This guy and these guys are he's going to jail for 3 years. Manafo's going to jail. He pled guilty. He's going to jail for 3 years. And he's getting off easy. This dude beat a cop and took his shield so that he could go beat other cops so that he could get in there and more than likely kill a sitting member of Congress.
Yep.
The guy's wearing body armor at the event. He's got a radio attached to it so he can coordinate with other people that are there. And guess what that means? It means the other people he's coordinating with, who are wearing body armor and dressed in black too, that are showing up in videos everywhere, that they're saying are Antifa, are part of his posse. Here's the rough part, though. This dude's going to do 3 years, and when he comes out, everybody in the maggot community is still going to think he's a Fed who just went down to cover the conspiracy. Can you imagine being willing to ruin your life for somebody like Donald Trump in the first place? You'd have to be, like, dopey as hell, but you'd also have to be, like, you know, just enamored, cult-like enamored with Donald Trump and that movement.
Get caught on the other side of the conspiracy. You're like, whoa, wait.
Yeah, wait, how did I become...
I'm one of you. I mean, no, officer. Dude, I'm not one of you.
Right. Yesterday, I was making up stories about other people just like this, and now you're making up stories about me? What the hell? I might have to sit in a small room for 3 years and consider that I might have been suckered by, you know, the Barnum and Bailey of our age. So these two guys are going down. And it was because of this. It was thank you for a new Patreon. Thank you so much, Greg. It was part of a huge, you know, it was a huge turning point and a huge, I guess, a plot point in the story that they were telling about these, like, the maggot whisperer idea, that they wouldn't have done this but for these folks. Every single one of them has been a longtime Trump supporter. Every single time. And you know how we know that there's even more of this evidence that's going to come out? You know how we know? Because remember all the footage they were going to release that say what you will about Mike Johnson, you know, pushing bills that were exactly like McCarthy would have done, except worse in terms of Republican priorities, which is hilarious. Say what you will about the guy, you know, basically being a rubber stamp. The one thing you can say is that he was going to come in and release all the Jan 6 footage and show that this was a big put on, that this was all organized, and it was a big psyop, and maggots got suckered into doing this, and everybody who's in jail now just got caught up in this, you know, like this Jewish space laser that was, you know, I guess printing the word attack.
Exciting. I mean, officer, I was driving along with the flow of traffic.
Oh, right. And then they all started driving into a playground, and I was like, well, I guess this is what we do now. Why would I slam on the brakes just because other people are running over children?
Why would I avoid these children? I've heard points. You can
I
get
mean,
points.
I've got a sticker on my car that says I love kids. Right? Why wouldn't I drive through a bunch of them trying to cross the street? You know? That's how you know. Anyways, so these guys, the footage isn't being released, and that's not a shock to anybody. They let out some of it, which was just kind of like out of order, small cuts, and you could only come and look at it. They, you know, and some people filmed it on their phone and were able to share it, but they didn't release, surprisingly, even more than a third of it. And that is because the more they release, this is like Biden votes that they found during the recounts. The more of this footage that they release, the more of these idiots are going to jail for a long time. One of the reasons why they're like, we have to redact this footage so the feds don't go after some of these people. Like, okay, first of all, that's you giving aid and comfort to the enemy if you're blacking out their faces or obscuring their identities so that the federal government can't look at these. Secondly, they can already look at the footage, stupid. The difference is citizens can't go, oh, wait a minute. That's Bill. Holy smokes. That's a guy who would always show up at the bar and blather about Trump and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, he's been staying out at his house or whatever, and he won't answer the door. I think I saw the cops going out there, but his wife told him he's not there anymore. I saw him yesterday. Like, that's what they're worried about. That people are going to go, I hate that guy, and this is where he lives. So now, on the other side of the whole, like, I mean, that is a massive crash in the narrative that has been protecting Donald Trump, the conspiracy narrative that has been shoring up a lot of Donald Trump support around Jan 6, is that he told him to go down there peacefully and patriotically. Walk down there. Now, he did say, if you don't fight, we're not going to have a country left, and you're going to have to be strong if Mike Pence doesn't do the right thing and all that stuff. So the idea is like...
Maybe fight like hell, maybe some of that.
Right. It means don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes, is effectively what he meant by that. And that's why he didn't go down himself and why nobody would go down there, because he was expecting it to pop off and turn into violence. And that, I mean, he could have caught stray awful from that. Bug spray, bullets, whatever. So, Of course, the Secret Service aren't going to take him down there. We got to take a break. When we come back, you'll be shocked to hear that the Hunter Biden investigation, and one of the biggest pieces of evidence that and I use that in air quotes, evidence, that they've allegedly had about Hunter Biden and his financial ties to his father, that bit the dust this week too, in spectacular fashion. We'll be back right after this. So, this is, I'll show you the story on this one so you kind of know what's going on. So this, the big text message they had.
Context going to kill them?
Oh, it's going to murder it, because it's testimony and information about the actual period and the call and the assertion, what it meant, and that this is something he said all the time around a specific story. So it was like there were probably other texts where he'd said something similar, but it had way more context, so they don't include it. Oh, it's so good. And it's the one about giving Pop half your money, half your salary. It's that one, which is that, like, Rudy's had a bad week, but this makes it really bad. Yeah.
Wait, Rudy had more of a bad week?
He was on the air on a podcast when he found out he may owe as much as $500 million.
Oh, neat.
Because his lawyers, thank you, his lawyers, like, amongst other things, lost a bid to stop a defamation case from other people. And they're like, okay, if they gave these two ladies 148, these three people probably going to get somewhere similar in that area. And even if they get slightly less or slightly more, we're talking 500 million. He was like, go. It was pretty hilarious. 500 million. And he doesn't have anywhere close to that. I don't doubt he has 50, but it's all going to be gone. This is an outrage. That's right. Also, he, I don't know if anybody's been following, he filed bankruptcy, right? No, thanks, Candy, for the super chat. Bless you. He filed bankruptcy. None of this money is. Thank you.
Thank you.
None of these.
You're locked into the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Okay, so one of the big stories. Let's be abundantly clear. The Hunter Biden laptop that Rudy Giuliani peddled and talked about and all that time does not exist. There is a real laptop that Hunter Biden turned over to the IRS as part of his case. And some people will cite things from that laptop and say that it's the same laptop that was allegedly left at the only Mac repair place in Delaware or even the country where the main proprietor works alone and could not pick any of his customers out of a lineup because he is legally blind and can't see 6 inches past the end of his face. And literally, if you put Eric Trump, Don Jr., and Hunter Biden in a lineup, he could not tell the difference. This is just materially true. Also, he's also the only person who loves Donald Trump so much that a Beau Biden sticker on it, on a laptop, would make him think there's crime in there. The Beau Biden Foundation, a man who by all accounts, was a man of total integrity and died of brain cancer that he got more than likely from his exposure to burn pits while he served in the military. And this guy was like, aha, if anything says criminal, that's what a sticker that says you were involved in the charity of a man who fought for the country and served the country and died most likely because of his service. That's the trigger point. And this guy also happens to oddly know Rudy Giuliani's lawyer. What are the odds? It's just so strange. So, needless to say, this is one of those conspiracy that is incredibly silly. And also, for those of you who don't know, there's also another magical Hunter Biden laptop. I don't know if you know
What?
you don't know about
Was
the
the
Keith.
second one?
There was it was first, technically the one that supposedly ended up at John Paul McIsaac's Mac shop. There was another one, Keith Ablow, who was a Fox News contributor and a psychiatrist who would come on and famously, he was one of these guys who would come on and say Hillary Clinton's got, Parkinson's, dementia, and the flu or whatever.
Oh, cool.
That kind of stuff, right? That guy. Okay, he was arrested for drugging and taking sexual advantage of his patients, and he would give out false scripts for pharmaceuticals, pain killers in particular, and the DEA raided his apartment, his condo, and in that, what do you know? But they found a laptop that was. When they looked at it, said this is the property of Hunter Biden. It looks like it's Hunter Biden's. How did Hunter Biden never got any, medical or psychological services from this fella that we know of? But magically, this laptop is at his house, right? And of course, Ablow knows all these, Rudy and all the Fox folks and all that stuff. And they call Hunter Biden's lawyer and they go, hey, we have some of your client's property here, we think. So if you want it, you can come get it because it's not part of our raid or any of that. It has nothing to do with it. We're not, it's not, we're going through his patient's files and claiming them and going back through and like, hey, what crimes did they confess to on the couch? It doesn't work that way. Like there's no like, patient doctor privilege that is thrown out simply because your doctor is a criminal, right? After a while. So, this other laptop, and they took it back and they're like, we don't remember ever. There was no reason why there would be one of his laptops at this guy's house, but we don't know that it was stolen. So, okay. Now, granted, Keith Ablow because he was doling out painkillers and drugs at some point, might have known some other heavy hitter, I guess drug dealers in the upper echelon of New York and DC and that kind of stuff because he ran in those circles. So God knows who he gave painkillers to as well. So they might have been part of that plot. But either way, it just absurd, like the whole thing. Okay, well, one of the things that they're mad about, the Republicans are really mad about the fact that their October surprise failed. The Hunter Biden laptop story, and you'll hear them either call it the hard drive or they'll call it the story. You'll notice that Trump is the only one who's dumb enough to call it the laptop from hell because Bannon and Giuliani and all these guys know that hard drive was never in a laptop and they know that how they got it. So they don't talk about it in those terms because they know the laptop doesn't physically exist. One may have been given as part of this scheme and said to the FBI, I've got this dead laptop with nothing on it that was Hunter Biden's, right? That's the thing, because he blanked the hard drive allegedly before giving it back to them completely. And that's the whole thing. It's just an empty, waterlogged laptop that nobody knows who it belonged to. It's just silly. So Rudy Giuliani and all these guys are like, they know it's the hard drive because he purchased it allegedly in Ukraine from Russians before all the current unpleasantness. One of the things about the October surprise and what made it an obvious October surprise was that Rudy Giuliani and Mackey, the other guy who was with him, I think that's his name, or we're getting him mixed up with the guy who posted the meme that Trump is complaining about. Either way, he would not give a copy of the hard drive that he had to the New York Post before the October story. And it's one of the reasons why it was considered an October surprise BS story. And the idea is, in the October surprise, the purpose of an October surprise is, it's a lie, it's fake, but if you release it in October, by the time people figure it out or the argument about it is over, the election's done. You've already ruined their reputation, and they can't certainly salvage it within 5 weeks, is the idea. That's the plan. That's what a October surprise is for.
Sure.
If it could withstand scrutiny, and if it could stand up to the allegations you're making, you would make it in June, which would right after the primary. You'd effectively wait until they are the candidate. And you go, now that they're the candidate, I'm going to ruin the party's chances of putting somebody else in there or make it much more difficult for them. And then I'm going to show that this person is a total criminal. But they don't. They hold on to it. And Rudy Giuliani handed out these printouts. That's what the Post was going off of. Printed emails, no metadata, no verification, because nobody can type up anything that looks like an email. It's just dumb. And then these alleged...
Well, I've got a counterpoint for you, Hal. Who's got a printer that works?
Well, sure. Touche. Yeah. Everybody's out of toner all the time. It's just a thing. The struggle is real. So, but here's the other thing. They went on the printouts, and one of the ones for all the gigabytes of material we've heard about, right? How much have we heard? There's so much. We're up to our eyeballs in evidence. And again, information is not evidence unless it leads to the solution of how a crime happened or who did it. That's what makes it evidence.
Right.
Other than that, it's just information that is meaningless, right? You can draw moral or ethical distinctions about someone based on information, but that doesn't make it evidence. It's just silly. So anyways, one of the big things he held up all the time, and they constantly repeat this one, Comer, Jim Jordan, and they all got it from Rudy Giuliani doing it on his Common Sense podcast all the time, right? Right? That was he would push this one, he would hold it up. He would hold up a printout of these iMessage bubbles, right? And it was this one about how, I hope you don't have to give Pop, I think I'll read it here. It's he sent a text to his daughter, Naomi. This is Hunter to Naomi. Which, by the way, with no evidence of a crime, let's just run by the fact that the Republicans have been allegedly, and I don't even know that this is worded exactly right or they didn't, mess around with it, because you can't tell because there's no metadata. So even I can't say this is real. Neither can they.
Right.
But let's just assume it is for the point of argument. The Republicans, with no evidence of a crime, for 2 years, have been reading out the text messages between a father with a drug problem and his daughter as they have arguments. People who have never served in public office.
Daughter?
Yeah, Hunter Biden's daughter, Naomi. Yeah.
Oh.
He goes, I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. He wrote in a typo-filled message. It's really hard, but don't worry. Unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary. Right? And this was the whole thing, like, okay, that shows he's the bag man. Okay. First of all, bag men don't get any of the money in the bag. Let's just start there. Let's just start with the fact that any mafia story you ever heard, the guy who goes and picks up the duffel bag full of cash from the people that are being extorted or giving protection money to the mob or what have you, they don't get to keep half of it as a transit fee. Right? Let's just... So you get paid something to do it, but the bagmen carry the bag. That's what it means.
You don't get the bag.
You don't get, and you certainly don't get half the bag. Like, you don't get any close to that. It's just dumb. Okay, so, but this was, they kept pushing this. Yes, the Spiro Agnew story is a great, the bagman story about Spiro Agnew is a fascinating thing.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, but anyways, as they pursue their impeachment inquiry, they've done this, and they say, Pop is about Biden. Okay. In the case of the message, Hunter Biden to his daughter, and this is from the New York Times, Republicans have portrayed it as evidence that he probably acknowledged he split his income with his father, who in early 2019 was out of office, but preparing to begin the campaign that would put him in the White House. Okay, that's the thing with the other payments. At a hearing in September, Byron Donalds displayed the message, asked a witness, Bruce Dubinsky, a forensic accountant, if you saw a text message like this is in a potential money laundering operation or potential pay-for-play operation, would you be looking for information related to it? The guy said, absolutely. But a close examination of the circumstances surrounding the 2019 text message, along with others that have been cited by Republicans during the impeachment inquiry, suggests that Hunter Biden's foreign income was shared with, or that suggests that shows the extent to which the contents of the communications have been misunderstood or outright distorted. The story behind the message, as explained by the Bidens and backed up by other interviews and a review of Hunter Biden's emails and text messages, offers sometimes unflattering insights into the family's finances and internal dynamics, and adds more detail what is known about Hunter Biden's erratic and irresponsible behavior while in the throes of addiction. But it's a very different story than they put forward. So rather than evidence of this split with the father, that he had split foreign income with his father, the 2019 message was a reference to a story from Hunter's youth that he repeated to his daughters when they became teenagers. He told them this all the time. It was prompted by a family dispute fueled by Hunter Biden's drug use, money troubles, and personal resentments. According to the review of Hunter Biden's communications, interviews with Biden aides, family friends, Hunter, and Naomi Biden, it started with a freak ski accident in the start of 2019. Naomi Biden, 25 at the time, and her then boyfriend, Peter Neal, were having lunch at the Slopeside Handlebar Restaurant and Pub at Four Seasons in Jackson Hole. They received a frantic phone call from Naomi's younger sister, Finnegan. Boy, are they Irish. This is the most Irish family. I just think it's fantastic. They're just pegging the Irish needle all the time. Who had skipped lunch with them to continue
Pegging
skiing.
the Irish is actually the name of a movie
No. All right. Finnegan told Naomi that she had caught one of her skis on a branch and taken a hard fall, injuring her knee. A rescue team from the ski patrol loaded her on a toboggan to take her down the mountain. Please help, she said. Naomi immediately alerted her parents, Hunter and his wife, who I think they might have been divorced at the time. The accident occurred during one of the darkest periods in Hunter's life. After the death of his brother, Bo, he descended into a spiral of addiction. His wife, Kathleen Buell, separated from him, and their relationship deteriorated as his addiction problem. During this period, he was financially dependent on Burisma, which appointed him to the board, blah, blah, blah. Burisma money was substantial, little under $500,000 in 2018, according to recent federal indictments. In addition, blah, blah, blah. They go through, she fractured her tibia, and she wanted to go to a doctor in D.C. He was suggesting she go to somebody in New York that was an orthopedist who knew somebody, and that was an argument. Okay. The doctor began treating her, that they sent to, had treated Hunter with ketamine. This orthopedic surgeon, one of the reasons why they didn't go to this person, and it was one of the issues with his addiction, how it got worse, was this guy was feeding him ketamine, which, by the way, is what killed Matthew Perry, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, she went to Washington. Hunter was mad and on drugs, wrote a bunch of angry and gibberish messages. And he said, find an apartment with Peter by next week. Hunter instructed him, send me the keys and leave all the furniture in my art. I love all you, but I don't receive any respect. He then sent text messages that Republicans have suggested that he gets his income. That's the one we saw that they talked about. And the story around it is effectively that his dad, while he worked in college, made him pay his room and board because Biden was putting him through school. So the idea was he was trying to teach him and Bo some personal responsibility. And so whatever you get from your job, which was like he had a couple of different jobs in school, you give half of it to your dad because he's paying for college. He's paying for the room and board and all this other stuff. So this was just during this period when he was very young. And the reason he said it to her was because she was in school at the time. So he was making this reference, I won't make you pay for, half your income to me, because he meant while you're in school, because that's what his dad did. And it was a story. He said, and now that you're working, I'm taking away your allowance, she recalled in an interview, and I just thought, this is the craziest concept I've ever heard. So I'm doing this good thing, and you're taking away my allowance, because he was giving her an allowance. I was so mad at him, so angry, and specifically remember him in the instance saying, when I was in college, I worked every single day, and I even had to give Pop half the money because he was paying for my college education. Naomi continued, I don't necessarily believe that he gave my Pop half. It's the classic parent saying, you don't know what it was like for me when I was growing up. I just had it so much harder than you. You kids don't know how easy you got it these days, is the kind of general tenor. And he would tell this story apparently a lot, so it was shorthand. That's it. That's the whole thing. That's the half your salary.
Yeah, and Gino in the chat makes a really good point.
Yeah.
He says, I don't need Hunter to be a saint. None of us do.
Right.
I never voted for Hunter Biden for anything.
Right. Yeah. And the weird part is, And I feel like dragged into this to some degree because we have to address these things because they're using them as a weapon against the actual person I voted for and the actual person you voted for. And more than likely, a lot of people in our chat voted for. They're using the personal communications between a father and daughter as a weapon against someone and lying about it. But family values, I guess. We'll be back right after this. Also, Phil Bittner's going to be joining us from Warsaw. He's in Poland, I think, right now on his way back to Ukraine.
He's mixing it up.
Yeah, it's transit. It's, that's how you get, most people go to Ukraine right now through Poland who are there. But we'll be back right after this because there's some.
I always thought it was practice.
Is that how you get to Poland? We'll be back right after this.
It's either that or Madison Square Garden.
One of the two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had a really good workout this morning, so I'm a little more dumb than usual.
Or energetic, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll call it energy.
I know. Yeah, sure. Spicy. So one of the things, real quick, I'm gonna throw this in. Have you been following Moms for Liberty stuff at all?
A little bit, and mostly through your posts.
Right. So again, I think there's something gross about the.
Back in a minute.
Thank you. I think there's something gross about the fact that she's the center of the story when her husband is the person who sexually assaulted somebody, right?
Oof.
But apparently, in the evidence that they claimed, maybe even from his phone, they found another sex video of her. And I gotta say, so much of this is like in the Hunter Biden zone thing. I don't care. I to some degree, the only thing that matters is this guy go to jail for sexual assault. I don't care what his wife did or what she was engaged in. She didn't break a crime. The weird part is just the internal hypocrisy of the whole thing.
Right. It's the hypocrisy that, if they do that, fine, great. But don't try to direct how other people live their lives.
Right. Yeah. It's bizarre.
Is it like people who might be a latent homosexual who try to outlaw it, thank you, and make it illegal and everything, like this internal hatred?
Right.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Johnny and I were just having a sort of philosophical discussion about why people become sort of right-wing hypocrites about stuff in relation to the Moms of Liberty story that keeps unfolding. And again, the weird thing is that Bridget Ziegler gets a lot of undue attention, I would argue, in this, as simply just because it's kind of, I guess, funny and ironic and what have you about the Moms for Liberty, crusader against filth and foreign filth in schools and whatnot, being involved in threesomes with her husband and filming them, which I think is also a big part of this. And that, that in and of itself would be by, a standard kind of right-wing. I mean, I guess Matt Schlapp is breathing a sigh of relief that this is eating a lot of the news bandwidth, right? But the interesting thing is that her, and I think the curious part, and I find sort of upsetting about it, is that her husband, Christian Ziegler, who's the head of the Florida GOP, or was until they got rid of him by reducing his salary to $1 to try and get him to quit before voting him off.
Work on me.
Yeah, well, they were trying to get him to. Well, no, because you have power, even if you're not getting the money from it. You're getting, you do something else. That's not all you do, right? So he didn't, the power of being the head of that organization is probably worth more than the paycheck, clearly, right? Yeah. So, anyways, part of the story that's come out is that there's police have found a second sex video of this woman who's, the head of Moms for Liberty and blah, blah, blah. And yes, everybody wants to see it. I know. All right. But because she's an attractive lady, I get it. But the problem with it, I find, is that it's sort of one of these old-fashioned scandals that we should be numb to by now. The kind of, right-wing sexual hypocrite, be it, somebody who's either closeted or secretly gay, voting against gay rights, or somebody who's engaged in a lot of philandering, selling themselves as a family-first conservative or what have you. that I mean that it's downright 90s, this kind of thing. The interesting thing is that even with that, it is eclipsing the story that her husband, who was engaged in these threesomes with her, when the woman that they had these regular trysts with was not interested in having sex with just him, because that lady said, apparently it's quoted in the affidavit, that she was more into his wife, that, you know, she was into it because of the couple, but she leans more that way in her fluid sexuality, and she's not really into it without his wife present. He went over to her house and sexually assaulted her. And it wasn't just groping. It was a full violent sexual assault. And she filed charges. She went to a rape clinic. She did everything you're supposed to do in a timely fashion. And somehow that part of it just is humming along, you know, under the old-fashioned shock of, my goodness, this lady's worried about the you know, filth and degradation of our society. Meanwhile, she's doing this stuff in the background, which is, I think, feeds into, I guess, some people are worried about backlash and shame when it comes to hiding their sexuality, that they will be in physical danger. You know, gay people and trans people have had to deal with this kind of thing. Traditionally, cross-dressers, the same thing. It's based on that idea, right? They have to hide what they want to do or feel, right, for fear of reprisal. But the irony in this particular case is, well, I think this might be just the Alan Watt idea of, you know, Christianity is the highest form of highest form of kink, because nothing is kinkier than making sex dirty. Right? You make sex dirty just to make it exciting. If it's just sex and you're allowed to do it, where's the fun in that, right? It's the sneaking around, right?
It's the forbidden,
Yeah, right. So you make it more forbidden, and then you've got to start ratcheting that up, because it's not really about intimacy or connection. It's about some sort of, like, you're crossing boundaries. And then it's no surprise that this guy who's into that would eventually cross what is effectively the ultimate sexual boundary in that regard, right? Non-consent. It's not surprising. So, and that may be, you know, her reasoning, fine, you know, and I don't care, right? I don't care if you have to sneak around and do stuff. But the irony is that this lady, in her whole, like, kids are exposed to too much filth, is essentially the entire thing. And she is singularly responsible through this story getting out, because her husband sexually assaulted someone, of the news being filled with more prurient stories of this ilk in the, I guess, in the state of Florida, than could ever show up in a kid's library. The irony. So that particular burst through, I think, was very telling. And real quick before, you know, Philip's going to be joining us, like I said, from Warsaw. There was a story that comes out, and a lot of people know that I follow, you know, and know, am overtly aware of the economics of China and whatnot. And there's a little bit of BS to this story that I would call, but there's an essence to it that has a seed of truth that is very important. And this is a story from Bloomberg's Green Take, and it says, electric cars are driving China towards the end of the age of oil. China imports 80 to 85% of their energy from outside the country, which is enormous.
Wow.
America imports about 12%. Right? We make most of what we use here, or as, you know, it's bought on the open market, but that's mainly where it comes from, because shipping costs are lower on oil that's right here. That's the only reason. Sometimes it gets cheaper elsewhere, or it's just Brent crude is better here, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of reasons for it. But in China, there is none. There just isn't. There's coal, but because of flooding, 3 or 4 of their biggest coal mines flooded and are giant, like, black swimming pools that are like the size of, you know, 19 football fields. It's bizarre and gross and full of toxins and terrible. But the fascinating part about this is this story about an EV road trip across China reveals how economics and consumer preferences, not green concerns, are hastening the energy transition. This is the key to this story. How economics and consumer preferences, not green concerns. They're not doing it because they're building coal plants for the electricity. They're doing it because they don't have to import the coal, but they do have to import like they would have to import the oil, and that in and of itself is very telling about the oil market, because once China crosses that threshold, and again, their economy is on a downward spiral, but they still have enough people where it's a major factor in the oil use market, the country. If they reach a tipping point, by the way, not good for the environment. It's not because they're going to use, they're not going to use fossil fuels. They're using the worst one actually, but they just don't have to get it from anywhere else. Well, where do the countries that make or dig up and process oil sell it to? If that market vanishes, right? And it is, and they know it. Why do you think the Saudis are trying to turn Dubai into a tourist destination and an economic, like in an industrial economic base, as opposed to just an oil-rich country with a lot of fancy stuff? We'll be back. Philip Bittner's going to be joining us from Poland right after this, which is very exciting. And he'll take your questions also at the chat at infotainmentwars.com.
Look at that, another super chat. From Tobias.
Excellent.
He sent us cat money.
Aw.
That's what the CA stands for, I think, is cat.
There we go. And then the maybe it works that way. Transition this over. See if this fits. Hold on one second.
Hold on.
Yeah, we'll get you out of there. Don't worry.
Oh,
whoops. Doesn't let me do that in the studio mode. Hold on one second. Bring you forward in this. Johnny Million. Boink, boink, boink. Whoops. Wrong way. Where are you going, Johnny? Come back. Come back. There he is. Hey, look at that. And then let me grab Phil over here. I'll grab his link and we'll be ready to bring him in just a moment.
Melissa Tittle. Your name is one of those I'm not supposed to read out loud.
Easy.
Merry Christmas to you. That's our first super chat ever. Holy moly. On any live stream. Thank you, Melissa.
Oh,
Here
thanks.
I am making fun of your name.
The nerve.
That sounds like something I'd do.
Okay, and I think Phil's coming up in just a second. And I'll unmute him when he's ready and settled. There he is. I see him. Phil, can you hear us okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. We can hear you. Spectacular.
Good.
Oh, and Warsaw has really good internet. Look at that. Oh yeah. Wait, hold on. I got the loop thing in front of you. He disappeared.
I like this.
Yes, he's fat.
I'm in front of everything.
Yes. Stop it, Johnny. Stop.
I'm coming to get you. Oh my God, why can't I get you?
Boink. There he is. Hey, there he is.
Hi, Phil.
There you go. Ta-da.
Hey.
Hi, there we go. We'll move this in here so it's a little less weird. And we'll make
I like being in front of my shape.
Yeah,
don't put me behind the shape. Don't do it. Nope.
My
neck.
All right, get out of here. Hang in. It's painful. You gotta be careful.
Boy, not once did Phil say children. I work with.
I know.
children.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed. He's gotten over it. He's become numb. He's been numb
he's
to
like,
our.
There they go again.
He's become numb to our malarkey.
Yeah.
Malarkey.
Yeah, there he is. Okay, cool. And that's good. And then thank you, M, and thank you, Heather, and thank you, Tobias. And is that Jan or Jan? Because that's a name where it could be Jan. Yeah. InfoWars with you. No, it's Infotainment Wars. Very important distinction.
You do not want to go to InfoWars.
See, the difference between InfoWars and Infotainment Wars is that I don't pretend to be serious about a lot of this stuff. Like when I talk about conspiracies, I'm doing it with a wink and a nod, not using it to sell
The frog
dick pills with with traces of lead in them.
Lead-based dick pills.
Stand by.
Well, I don't know that that's. Thank you. I don't know that that's the base, but it's clearly an issue.
Attention, attention, stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks to all our supporters out there. Patreon.com/HalSparks keeps the show on the air, and thank you guys so much. It is the holiday season, so you can do a year-round if you want to join. You don't have to do it monthly if that bothers you or annoys you. And we've reopened the $5 level if that's if your commitment is low and you're like, I don't know about this Sparks kid. I'm gonna check him out for a little while before I commit to more than a cup of coffee a month in supporting him. You can we can hang out, but in the meantime, Johnny Million is with us. He's got a live stream too during the week. Yeah, there he is. It's Johnny Million on YouTube and Twitch, and our dear friend Philip Ittner joins us, and you can find him under, I believe, Philip Ittner on a lot of your social media sites, except for X, where he is Ittner Philip, which I think is, because he's schooling people, so why not have your name read backwards like a student? So that said, welcome to the show. How are you, and where are you? You want to tell everybody?
I'm in Warsaw. Just landed today. Took the red eye from JFK. Very jet lagged. But
I won't ask a lot today. I won't surprise you with a lot of like weird, obtuse stories that happened in the last 12 minutes.
Yeah. And tomorrow we'll go to a little border town where they have a train connection that'll take me all the way to Kiev.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go.
Lots to talk about. You know how, Phil, I'm sure you've, and Johnny, and by the way, chat room, get your questions ready through Johnny Million. He'll have them for Phil in the last, and then starting in the next segment. But, one of the things we hear about on the U.S. border, about like when drugs are seized coming across the southern border, there seems to be a confusion in the Republican field about the fact that they were seized, that's a good thing. And the assumption is that if you're seizing that much, there must be a lot more, instead of you're actually making headway in seizing more of it, and that a lot more was getting through until you started seizing it, because the market hasn't grown. As a matter of fact, it kills people, so it goes down. There's fewer people buying fentanyl in the country because it kills a decent number of them. So the idea that, anyways, they seem very confused about the whole seized part. And there's a story similar to that where the Ukrainian, I guess the government has accused a senior defense official of embezzling $40 million, and they busted the dude, which is what you're supposed to do. I'm sure Russia wishes they had done this more with the oligarchs that they have, I was about to say they've killed after the war started, but they, in their defense, they just suffered from gravity poisoning, or they flipped their own off switch magically, in the most violent way possible, in a way that would require them to put their toe in a shotgun trigger mechanism that was in a gun that was across the room. That was Long Legs Kovalchevich, who
tallest bull you ever saw.
Yeah, tallest guy you ever saw. Just like from the waist up, normal, but his legs, just these long stick-like things. But that said, that's what you're supposed to do. This, yeah. Have you heard anything about this story? And
they've been trying to crack down on corruption simultaneously at the same time that they're fighting a war,
right?
And they've accelerated the attempts to crack down on corruption. They really ramped it up about 5 months ago,
mm-hmm.
It's they want to none of the equipment that is being sent over, or any of the money, the funds, the equipment, none of those have been touched by corruption,
right?
And I can say that comfortably because we have sent at least 5 delegations have come over in the last
from the U.S.
year and change.
Yeah,
from
a lot of Republican
Congress.
senators, right? Too.
Yes,
a lot of that have checked the books
and
themselves, right?
and the Ukrainians are not stupid people. They are smart enough to know that at the very least, whatever the Yanks give them has got to be on the up and up. So they've gone out of their way to keep very close tabs on the equipment and the money that we're sending them. There have been some minor scandals in terms of things like uniforms and food supplies that the Ukrainians themselves are buying, but not directly involved with the funds or the equipment coming from the States. Nevertheless, this is something that the Ukrainians themselves have said, we've all the blood, all the suffering, all the things that we're going through have got to mean something.
Right.
And part of what we're fighting against is the kleptocracy of Russia.
Right.
And part of the major issues that Ukraine has been challenged with since the fall of the Soviet Union is because they have these Russian oligarchs coming over and using Ukraine as this kind of gray market, black market environment for them to wash their money into Europe.
Yeah.
So part of the entire war has been pushing against Russian corruption, and that's part and parcel of all of this. So
right.
I'm not terribly surprised that they're going to continue to find corruption, and they're going to try and weed it out.
First of all, the idea that there are governments around the world of any sort that don't have corruption in them, I think it would be more suspect if nobody ever found any, because it seems like nobody ever finds any in the Russian government. Some people just disappear, and you never hear how any of it. None of those people see the inside of a courtroom. None of them have a chance to prove their innocence. They just, again, have a problem with bouncing. Apparently, they're just not. Like in the great fight between them and 3 stories of a building, they lose. And
there are very few systems in which human beings get together in which there is not corruption or abuse in that system.
That's right.
It's just part of who we are as human beings. Is people will take advantage, and I mean we have it in the States. You got to run. You got to have checks.
That's why checks and balances. That's why I think even Reagan quoted, his quote, quoted the old Middle Eastern idiom, which is, trust in God, but tie up your camel. That kind of idea. It's trust but verify is the idea behind that. And so the idea that they found this dude and they busted him and they tracked it goes to sort of in the same line of the Diamond prosecutors, which is the guys who were aligned with Shokin, who were found to have guns and gold and, a downright Menendez-level stash in their house that they had used to extort from people like Zlochevsky at Burisma, going, look, we know you're up to shady stuff. Everybody is, because that's how stuff works here when the Russians are here. But we can pull the leash anytime we want. So you pay us, we don't tell anybody, and business as usual. That's the... that's the idea. And they're trying to put an end to that. Thank you.
Yeah, in a big way. And a big part of it is that in Russia, corruption is not controversial unless your corruption bumps up against somebody else's corruption, and then things get serious.
Right. Yes. You dipped stolen chocolate in my stolen peanut butter meant for the troops.
Yeah.
Why don't we mix them together and sell them in India, and then the troops don't get chocolate or peanut butter? High five. That's
which is why this whole Hunter Biden thing, Biden thing and we've talked about this many times, but I mean the whole Hunter Biden thing about it is that Ukraine has been suffering since the collapse of the Soviet Union of these Russian guys coming in and then just robbing them blind and then heading on back to Moscow.
Right.
So when you get a guy who is the son of the vice president, you can track him down. There's a
that's
road,
been my point.
There's
You
a
can't
roadmap.
steal the money.
Yeah.
You can't steal the money if you're that famous and that well known. If you have a brand where your dad is the vice president, there's a chance suppose during the vice president will often run to be president. This is before Bo died, that a lot of people, this was the generalized consensus. They were probably making plans because they knew Biden's very anti-Russia on a bunch of fronts and is not a fan of like Netanyahu and others. He was part of the Iran deal, but he wanted to be tougher on Iran even than other members of the thing. So Russia and other people are making decisions like, okay, what happens if Joe is the guy? The same thing is true of the people who are like, he can't run off. He can't disappear. Hunter Biden cannot steal your money and vanish. He could pass away, right? And the money could disappear that way, but that's a huge deal. So your money is safer with Hunter Biden there than it is with almost anybody else. And that's what they were counting on.
The whole thing about it, what amazes me is that people can't get it into their heads that the Republicans keep coming in against Hunter Biden because he's supposedly influence peddling, or he's
right.
The other. Well, no, what he was a loan guarantor.
Yes,
he was. It's a very simple thing. My parents, when I was a younger man, helped me secure a loan with a bank by being co-signers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In essence, that's exactly what Hunter Biden was doing over there, because you needed somebody to sign for the loan that was reliable, because there's an endemic corruption within the country.
Right.
So you want to have somebody who is reliable. So you get a co-signer. Hence the Biden.
Right. Or you have a guardian, somebody there overseeing where the money is distributed that you trust, or that even if you don't trust them that much, they couldn't even rip you off if they tried. Right. You know exactly where they are. That's right. We'll talk about, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll take some of your questions as well. But then we also want to talk about this. The Russians have lost another giant gas field production run to Europe. And in the same week that Germany has officially cut off all gas ties permanently, there was still some remnant in it, and is, of course, where are they getting their natural gas from? The imperialist pig dogs of America, who forced them to not get Russian cheap gas, and so that we could sell it to them. Nah, they just got it from Norway. We'll be back.
Pig dogs.
Right, we'll be back.
Pig dogs.
Pig dogs.
Did we break?
I don't know. Chicago, did we break?
I can't tell if we broke. Chicago.
We were trying to went to break. We thought we were going to. There it is. Now we're on break. That happened. So yeah. So this is about the this Arctic project. Never mind the fact that everybody who works at a project like this, their life is hell most of the time. Good Lord. The fact that you are even seeking liquid natural gas in an area that is 90% of the year permafrost that's not a good sign. This is one of the reasons why they seized Crimea. Wasn't the history of the Russian people, or they really care about that? Because there's LNG off the beaches, and it's way easier to get. Your people don't have to freeze to death if the lights go out. It's that simple. And you don't have to truck it as far. You can put it on boats and bring it, back to the main, up to Moscow and St. Petersburg via waterways or pipelines even.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is the Novatech-led Arctic LNG. They were supposed to start producing, and nope. Yeah. Start of supply from Russia's newest liquefied natural gas project will be delayed after the company declared a force majeure on shipments in the wake of U.S. sanctions. That's us. The sanctions aren't having an effect, though. And I'm just saying. Oh, my gosh. Daphne, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Did Hal ever give you the Orioles swag I sent to his Santa Monica address for you? I haven't seen Hal in a while.
Yeah.
I know I'm only on one day a week. I get it. I'm going to have to jump on GarageBand and start sawing something together.
this is the Hal Sparks Show, wow, and a guitar note, and then with progressive, and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Hey, Hal, did you mean something like this?
This is the Hal Sparks Show, wow, and a guitar note, and then with progressive, and all. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
The Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yeah, it's going to be good. By the way, speaking of guitar chords, Johnny Million has a live stream. It's Johnny Million. And also on YouTube and Twitch, same name. But also tonight at the world famous Whiskey A Go-Go on the famous Sunset Strip, the place where the Doors were once the house band, and bands like Motley Crue, Rat, and any other of the LA hair bands came out of, and also where I recently shared the stage with Robbie Krieger and Dennis Quaid and a bunch of other people for the jam night that I do there. Nerd Halen is playing a headlining gig at the Whiskey. Very exciting. Where tonight, as of tonight, insofar as I know, and I'm open to the possibility that some other band has done it either temporarily, we are the only Van Halen cover band that does all three singers. Now we are adding a Sharon era song to We're Doing Without You. So I have to tell people this so they can listen to it in the car on the way to the show so they know it a little, because it's not quite.
You got to be able to,
Yeah, you got it.
Van Halen song.
Yeah, exactly.
I was looking at one of Caleb's videos that he posts on YouTube recently, and because they're Nerd Halen, instead of having a cigarette inside the guitar strings, he's got a number 2 pencil.
He does. He's got a golf pencil in there. I brought my pencil.
So brilliant.
I brought my pencil, right? That's the line.
Yep.
It literally does. Yeah. He literally brings a pencil. So that's how nerdy we are. It's pretty brutal. Anyways, back to life, back to reality. So Russia's Novatek PJSC, which was their Arctic LNG project, the company that oversees it, was all set to release a bunch of frozen natural gas, I guess, into the system, but they had to declare force majeure and say that we can't make our deliveries because of U.S. sanctions, which obviously aren't hurting Russia at all with their 35% constant inflation and the ruble being less than the Indian rupee, and their overstock of Chinese yuan, which is making their international purchases almost impossible to buy from anywhere but China. I mean, China effectively has turned the yuan into a coupon for Chinese goods because they can't get rid of it anywhere else because nobody wants yuan, which is just fascinating. So, again, the constant degradation of the Chinese and the Russian economies, it's just kind of one of these things that's just like humping by in the background. And I don't know why it doesn't get more attention. Maybe because it's a bit wonky, right? It's
finance news,
right? Exactly. That's the thing.
It's always a little bit dry,
but it's also the bread and butter of it. Now, let's grab some questions before I ask. I do dump something on Phil about Russia and Africa, which is just they're doing something that I found so awful that I have to bring it up. But we'll get to that in a minute. What do you got, Johnny?
Yeah, so I've got a question from Deb Denny. What's the scuttlebutt on the kidnapped children and the massive average 1,000 per day loss of Russian troops?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it's been going on for a long time. We have reports of Russian troops when they take a city or a town, the first thing they ask is, where's the orphanage, or where's the school? Knowing that oftentimes people will shelter in the school, or their children will be sheltered in the school, and then they'll just take them. Mm-hmm. They'll just take them, and they'll send them out to great distances away from Ukraine, Siberia generally, and they do a program of quote unquote re-education where they force them to denounce the Ukrainian language, force them to sing the Russian anthem, and deny their connections to Ukraine. So it's ethnic cleansing, full stop. And I mean, it's the Ukrainians are fighting it as best they can. They have a program where if you are a secondary or a tertiary family member, that you can put in a request for the child to be brought back to Ukraine, and these brave family members will actually cross into occupied Ukraine, and they will have transfers of these children. But it's deeply cynical. They'll say that the Russians will say things like, "Oh, we're saving these children because they're orphans and they're so close to the war zone," not failing to mention that they're orphans because the Russians have killed their parents, or that we're getting them out of a war zone that we created. So the whole thing with the children is going to be, it's going to be ongoing for decades, probably. And probably some of these children will never be returned to Ukraine. It's very sad. It's very, very, very sad. And as far as losing 1,000 soldiers a day, they're in the meat grinder, generally up in the northern sector of the front line, which is up near Avdiivka and Bakhmut. That's the place where a lot of casualties are coming from. There's some a decent amount in the southern sector, where the Ukrainians have crossed the river and they're holding on to a bridgehead on the other side of the Dnieper River, which will allow them to put Crimea under threat. So and Russian tactics are such that they just throw bodies.
Did Ukraine's special
and I have come to the conclusion recently that, because people have always been talking about, like, well, what is the breaking point? What is the breaking? What's the number where Russia revolts against Putin, or it's one dead Russian soldier too many? And I'm increasingly of the opinion that it doesn't matter. The body count doesn't matter. And that Putin and his ilk.
That's what the Z meant. Right, the Z was World War Z. We're just going to charge people like World War Z, and it's just going to be an overwhelming body pile that will eventually break the West, because they'll get sick of seeing our dead. We will we will weaponize the empathy of the West by slaughtering our own people, or allowing them to be slaughtered, and pointing to this giant pile of bodies and going, look, the Ukrainians are never going to win this, but they just want to kill all these people. They're making us send all our military age men there to be, there was by the way, Phil, I don't know if you saw, but there was a story about somebody tracked a grenade launcher team in the Avdiivka they'd been there for 8 months. One of the people in the unit, who was an infantryman, had, I think, been wounded or killed, but the rest of them had all been relatively safe. Like, this guy had been part of the unit, and he went on a scouting mission, and I think ended up getting hurt. But everybody else had just done their thing, moved, done their thing, moved, and they would just fire, rocket-propelled grenades at these Russians running across these fields, kill hundreds of these Ukrainians with maybe empty rifles, God knows. And then they would have to move their stuff so they wouldn't get struck by, a drone or something like that. And they would just bounce back and forth. And they were like, it became like almost tedium, because there was no attack back from the Russians that was meaningful. They were able to clear and get out of the way because they had a strategy, and they were fighting against people who have no strategy, that are just being sent through. Right.
Well, and they've also elicited the mythology of the Second World War, not least of which because this is a territory where much of the Second World War was actually fought. Ukraine, we like to think about the conflict in the Second World War between the Soviet Union and Nazi Germany. Most of that, the vast bulk of the fighting, happened in Ukraine and north of it in Belarus. That was the overwhelming majority. And then what that has done is that it has, because World War II to Russia is not history, it is religion, because it was such a monumental clash of powers, that they've elicited this Second World War mythology. And so you can participate in what your grandfather or whatever fought in the Second World War. You can contribute to that same fight, which we didn't finish because we didn't kill all the Nazis, quote unquote, in Ukraine. So when we talk about there have been a couple of examples in the later stages of the Soviet Union, the immediate post-Soviet period, where they fought in Afghanistan and they fought in Chechnya. And in both times, there were these soldiers' mothers and wives organizations that took to the streets and they protested. And because, the image of beating up grandmothers is not that great, even for Russians, there was this pressure on the state, and they concluded those conflicts. That was Chechnya and Afghanistan. Those are far-flung. Even Chechnya is kind of like the soft underbelly. You have to explain the strategic importance of Chechnya. Afghanistan is way out there. Who cares about Afghanistan? Ukraine is all about Russian Empire. It is quintessential to their sense of identity and sense of self. So it's not going to be mothers and wives on the streets that's going to stop the thing. It's not going to be a body count. It's going to be taking land and being defeated on the battlefield.
Right. We got to take a break. We'll come back with more of your questions. And of course, there have been reports of Ukrainian special forces killing Russian and Wagner soldiers in Sudan recently. And it's a fascinating turn of events, but effectively it's one of their ways to keep the Wagners from rotating back up to the battlefield as the only kind of trained militia people that Russia can put forward. The best way to get rid of them apparently is not on their own ground, but by going to Africa and killing them there. The stories are heartbreaking and fascinating. We'll be back right after this.
And we got to talk about the F-16s.
Yeah, they shot down 3 of them, and the Patriots got 3 of them.
That's one of the questions I've got.
Su-35s too. Too. Sorry, we'll talk about the F-16s.
The F-16s arriving in the Su-35s being shot down.
Yeah. Because by my count, it's 6, right? 3 were shot down by a Patriot system, and 3 were shot down in open air combat. So I'll if I'm getting that right. So.
And we've got a number of Ukrainian sources saying the F-16s are going to be in combat before the end of the year, which is a week. Which means they already are.
Right.
They already are.
Yeah. It's like technology. Thank you. It's like technology. If the government, if the Pentagon is showing off a piece of technology, it's 10 years old, and they've already updated 2 different systems, right? Right. That's for the people who still think that the Pentagon fails its audits instead of it isn't dumb enough to show our enemies where everything is, how much it costs, where it was built, and who's in charge. It's the forced naivete is the thing that drives me crazy. That's the part. Let's all pretend that we're talking about how a highway is built. It's so weird.
Also stuff we shouldn't know. I'm sorry. I'm a journalist. I love open communication, but there's another thing called saving lives and winning wars.
Yeah. So it's not surprising that the Ukrainians are in Sudan, not fighting along with. Sorry.
Stand by.
Okay, thank you. I'll talk about this in a second. But they're not fighting alongside this.
All the creativity has been removed from the Hell Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide bumpers.
Oh no.
Now welcome back to the Hell Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
We're all hey, I can start breakdancing. I can start breakdancing to a robot noise. We're all Gen Xers. So welcome back to the show. We got more questions. Then I want to talk about, one of the stories that is off the radar for a lot of people is what's happening in Sudan. And I've been trying personally to kind of ping it up into people's awareness lately, because it increased since April. It really has popped off, but it actually ties into what we're talking here, because there are Ukrainian special forces that are fighting not alongside the Sudanese army, but with their sort of permission in the country. They're not fighting. They're not getting targets from them. They're not supplying targets, but they're hitting Wagner mercs in Sudan who are fighting on behalf of the RSF, who are ethnically cleansing Darfur and the border of Chad as well. So that's the side the Russians are on in this. If you in the jump ball of a very complex war, Russia has decided to come down solidly on the side of the RSF, the Rapid Strike Force. But we'll get to that in a minute. But we had another question, Johnny Million, from the chat room at infotainmentwars.com.
This is, you guys were talking about this during the break. The Patriot system shot down 3 Russian fighter planes. Is that saying something about the weaponry that Russia has left to use?
I don't know if it's a reflection on what Russia has left to use, so much as we are getting more Patriot anti-air defense systems. The Germans have provided 2 more. There's already one in the capital, thank goodness, because it's incredibly effective. And by the way, I mean, it shows how good that system is. The Patriot system is extraordinary in what it's able to do. So I don't know if it's a reflection on Russia's bad, tech, or whether it's a reflection on how good the Patriots are. They're getting 2 more Patriots from Germany, as I said. Hopefully one of them goes down to Odessa. Hopefully one of them goes to the front line. The air battle is going to be really interesting very soon, because we do know it's an open secret that the F-16s are in Ukraine.
Right.
So we have been training Ukrainian airmen and pilots to fly the F-16, one of the best, one of the best combat jets in the world. And they are hello, who we have here?
It's Chud. Chud came in to say hi.
Is that Chud?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Chud. Oh, I see her. Anyhow, those of you who are listening on the radio
don't know what the heck's going on. Right.
Yeah, no, lovely cutie kitty. So the F-16s. It's been interesting to see this discussion in the last 3-4 days, because there have been all these kind of veiled announcements that the F-16s are already there, and they're saying, the popular thing that I have seen Ukrainian officials saying is the F-16 will be in the combat zone by the end of the year, by the end of 2023. Well, that's 7 days away,
right? Yeah.
So they're there now.
Yeah,
they're there now. That in military parlance, I am willing to put money down that there are F-16s in the air right now, knocking down Russian aircraft. And also, by the way, I mean, one of the reasons why the F-16 was so contentious, and one of the reasons why the Russians freaked out about it when we made the announcement that we were going to do this, is because it's a multi-platform system. So you can do air-to-air combat, but you can also do air-to-ground combat. So there is no one weapon system that is a panacea. Right. But the HIMARS were a huge, significant change in the distance that Ukraine could strike at Russian forces and Russian forces behind the lines, because the sheer distance of the HIMARS, that multi-launch rocket system. Then we got the Patriot system. And I can tell you, living in Kiev, I can tell you from personal experience living in Kiev, I have seen the Patriots in action, witnessed it with my own eyes. I have footage, but I have held that footage to myself because of security concerns. But I have seen with my own eyes what the Patriot missile system is capable of doing. And I have also lived through Kiev pre-Patriot arrival and post-Patriot arrival. And it has made a massive difference. I can sleep a little bit easier in Kiev knowing that there's a Patriot system in there, because it's so effective in knocking down even hypersonic missiles, which the Russians says couldn't be done. Now they're getting, now they're the Abrams are out there. The tanks are out there. That's being very, the information about the Abrams is being kept very, very quiet. They love the Bradley, the Bradley fighting vehicle, but now they're getting the F-16s. As our side of the equation, the Ukrainian Western side of the equation gets stronger and stronger, the Russians get weaker and weaker. And while their forces and their assets are diminishing, we are putting in newer and better systems. I am still very confident of a Ukrainian win, and much of it is because of these kind of things. And again, I can attest to the Patriot personally. It's an amazing system.
Yet another report of allegedly Putin being open to peace talks and a ceasefire as long as they can keep what they've taken so far.
Yeah,
including I guess the children. Yeah, they were just gonna. Yeah, that includes the kids, all the people they've abducted. Sure, all the women and children. We'll keep that. We'll keep all the land we took in this last one, and we promise not to do it again in another 2 years. We promise we won't we won't salami slice our way across the country while you guys lower your guard and try to join the EU and start normalizing your life. We won't just watch you do it and watch where you do it and then attack you again. Let's grab one more question, and then I have something I want to bring up as well, especially around
I got from Karen Bast. They want to know, does Ukraine have Christmas on Monday? Or are they Orthodox and celebrate in January?
That's a good question. They used to be Orthodox. There is still very much an Orthodox community within Ukraine, but they have decided, they made a very, very public decision to break with Russian traditions, and they're going to celebrate on the 25th. So Christmas in Ukraine will be officially celebrated. I'm sure there will be Orthodox observances on the 7th of January, which is when Orthodox Christmas is, which is a very different affair from Western Christmas. But by and large, they will be celebrating Christmas by not by dictate, but the state has decided that that's when the state will recognize a holiday known as Christmas, and it'll be on the 25th. I will be sitting in a train, if all goes to plan, between a little town on the border in Poland to Kiev. It's about a 10-hour, 13-hour train trip. So I will be. There will be no Yuletide celebrations for me, but I'll be I'll be celebrating Christmas on a train.
Okay, there are worse ways to do it. As long as it's not the Polar Express, I suppose, which is
it's all good.
Talk about trying to force a holiday movie through the never
the
really
Overton
succeeding.
window.
Yeah, right.
The fight that you guys are doing, and I know because I hear from you guys.
In the world?
Personally,
Go away.
I hear
Who's
from
that. Who is all right?
Glenn.
That was Glenn Beck. Yeah, right.
For some reason, Glenn Beck.
Sometimes my computer will spout things.
Even outside, it's packed.
Because I have so many stories just kind of buried in there somewhere.
One of those secret tabs back there.
Yep, it's true. The fight in Sudan right now, which is heartbreaking and terrible. That's right. We have to slab it.
We have to slab it.
The fight in Sudan is awful, and there are I don't think there's any distinct good guys in either side of this except the citizens on the ground. That said, in this sort of like jump ball between the lesser of two evils, Russia has chosen the worst of the two evils intentionally. The RSF itself, like where Blinken came out and said both have committed war crimes. He made a distinction, like both sides have committed war crimes. They're attacking areas because some people are dressed in civilian clothing and all this kind of stuff. They're in this process of, they've definitely done it. However, the RSF has committed war crimes and ethnic cleansing and has an intention to genocide while they're in the business of fighting other Sudanese people, driving out different, groups within, inside those territories. So to sort of ethnically cleanse that area that they're in as well. And so the Ukrainians have been down there just basically as sniper teams shooting Wagnerites. And Wagner just started this thing. And World War II, historians and buffs like our dear friend Boston Bryan will know this. Right, the Nazis had a group called the Africa Corps, which is they basically certain Nazis would go down to Africa, and if you went to Africa Corps, you were just down there to like control and seize, and you would incorporate some of the locals into what you were doing and try to hype up the racist divisions, of colorism and these different things, or between like black Africans and Arab Africans, and try to build that division so that in that division you could wedge in there and get the resources, run out with the gold, which is what the Russians or the Nazis would do a lot. The Russians literally are doing the exact same thing, and they decided to call it the Africa Corps as well. Like they named it the same thing the Nazis named it to do the exact same thing. But then tell me again how we're denazifying Ukraine by
and the fact that the Wagner group was named after Hitler's favorite composer.
Right. Yes.
And literally that was the reason. That was the decision.
Right. And how many clues do we need? It's one of those things like if people tell you who they are, believe them. But at a certain point, like maybe they're just leaving breadcrumbs, but these are entire loaves of bread. You just like thud. I'm pretty sure there's a bakery where we're headed because that's the only possible way there could be this much bread. Let's see. Let's take a break, and we're entering our final segment. And then as soon as the show's over, I gotta blaze a trail. I'm driving to LA for this gig, and I've got to get there just in time for.
And thank you for all the gifted memberships, Wayne Gowan.
What you gwan do?
Wayne, what you gwan do when they come for you?
We'll be back right after this. Meanwhile, follow Philip Ittner, both his vlog on YouTube and of course on Exeter or what have you at Ittner Philip. We'll be back right after this.
Exeter. Reminds me of Brexit.
Yes. Except I can't call it what I call it on, because of the air. Yeah.
And we may still be on the air right now.
I think so. And we'll be back. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide.
We'll be back.
We'll be
right back.
There we go. There we go. I always know. All right. Here we go. I try to keep it pretty close to the quarter hour so that, I'm not throwing them a monkey wrench too much. Do my best. There was a Ukrainian drone blew up a bridge in Belgorod.
Yeah.
Which was,
yeah. All the attacks internally within Russia that Ukraine has been doing recently.
Or the expatriates or the other people are like little.
Oh, thank you, Kitty K.
Golf forces. Oh, thank you.
Sharif don't like it.
Rock the bar. Rock the cat bar. Rock the cat bar.
Somebody said monkey wrenches are called sticks. Thank you, Gino. I like that. The ones they make.
Right, the ones they use, yeah. Do you ever have one of those things in like, I don't know if you went to Boy Scout camp where the thing was that you would always do with the new guy, you would send him off to get a left-handed monkey wrench, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like that was one
of the snipe hunts.
Snipe hunts, yeah. Let's see. I gotta get down here.
Stand by.
Thank you.
I am happy, you are happy, let us be happy together, whether the weather is cloudy or sunny. I will always be your funny honey bunny. I am lucky, you are lucky, let us get lucky together, whether the weather is cloudy or breezy. I'll be there to say, hey, come on, let's take it easy. Cause isn't it nice to have the friends that you do? And isn't it nice that the sky is so blue? And isn't it nice to say I love you, chugga chugga choo choo, woo woo. I am smiling, you are smiling, let us smile together, whether the weather is cloudy or stormy. I will still be there in the morning, I'll be right by your side in the morning. I'll make you breakfast in the morning, I hope that you like cereal.
Yay! And as of right now, our dear Kate McCucci is recovering nicely from surgery. She had surgery was successful. So insofar as she knows, she is cancer free, and she does not. I don't think she has to go through chemo at this point. It was successful.
They think they got it all. Yeah.
Yeah. So fingers crossed, and she's lovely, and so it's nice when she can provide us with the happy ending song and be the happy ending at the same time. I'm sorry it came at that cost. Next time she's our happy ending, it'll just because she's still super talented, funny, and lovely. There you go. A couple of things. Dmitry Peskov, who's the Kremlin spokesperson, apparently crapped the bed this week when Putin was coming out with this sort of like, Ruski Mir can include people of all ethnicities as long as they want to be under my thumb. I don't care where they're from or what they do. And basically Peskov came out and parroted Donald Trump's poisoning the blood of our country.
Oh, neato. That's a great little
they're completely in line. And he made the case that all they do is all migrants do is come into the country and start criminal enterprises. To it, Putin, I guess, responded, and that's our job. So he's not so much mad that they're starting criminal enterprises, but that they're infringing on his territory.
But also cynically, they're looking at it for the gene pool. They need more. They have a population crisis in Russia.
But that's what he's saying.
So
yeah,
I've seen recently in kind of the wake of Peskov, bring them in. We'll teach them. Of course, they have to learn Russian.
Right.
So
he also means camps. Europeans, maybe Georgians, Ukrainians, perhaps the whiter edge of Turkish. They'll be okay with. That's who they're talking about. They don't mean Chinese people in the eastern sector of Russia.
No,
they're not talking about those folks. So let's grab another question, and then I have a couple of things from the Institute for the Study of War has a couple of updates, and I wanted to bring them up.
Sure. I've got a question from Eric Pekarsky. What are your thoughts on the potential of Ukraine receiving its first shipment of F-16 from the Netherlands, possibly as early as in a week?
Send them. The more, the merrier. And it's going to change everything. It's again, there is no one panacea, but the F-16 is going to be a big adjustment in the war because they're going to dominate the air, and nobody right now has air dominance. That might change, and if that changes, then we're closer to ending this thing. Please, I mean, I hope this is the last Christmas that I go through where Ukraine is at war. So let's end this thing.
I don't know if you heard this one, but Solovyev was a little upset this week because they ended Moscow State University ended their program on special propaganda that you could get a degree in being full of crap, which was amazing. And they literally had a like how to join the propaganda ministry and like what tools you'll need to create disinfo and misinfo tides and run a bot farm. All those, they literally shut it down. And Solovyev was saying all Russian schools need to teach this.
Yeah.
Which is okay, I guess. But it was
learn how to lie.
Yeah, they offered a master's program. That part of it is, of course, in quote, special propaganda. And they ended it. And my theory is, you know why? Is because nobody is left that's smart enough to understand and get the master's degree in it, because they've all been sent over to be cannon fodder. There's such a brain drain that anybody smart enough to be able to understand how that stuff works and run one has either left the country already and is busy making YouTube videos saying Russia sucks, ironically enough, that are fairly convincing. And or they've been sent to the front line to just die as cannon fodder. Super weird.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's Russia for you.
Well, yeah, exactly. What do you got there, Johnny? What's their next one?
I've got one from Task View. What problems is the Polish truck drivers blockade causing?
Worse. It was worse earlier. The Ukrainians and the new Polish government have been finding workarounds. It's still a problem. It's mainly the trucks are actually lined up on the roadways, but it is the goods are oftentimes now being transported onto rail, and that's how they're getting around the railways or the roadway system, where the blockade is happening, where the backlog is happening. So it was bad there earlier, but touch wood, it's a workaround has been found, and I think eventually that thing is going to end.
Right. Let's grab another one, Johnny. I think we got
I've got one from
left.
Nick Rich. Has the onset of winter affected the Russian advance?
Yes. Yeah. It's harder. The thing is with winter, because the ground is now frozen, you can't take ground and then defend it because you can't dig in. You're still able to do maneuver. So you mechanized attacks can still happen, but holding territory is going to be increasingly difficult. Well, it will be difficult for a while now because you simply cannot dig in because it's frozen. It's permafrost. So winter, as far as like taking ground and then defending it from a counteroffensive, that's very difficult for the Russians. But equally, the Ukrainians have the same problem. But the Ukrainians' military objectives are much more about maneuver right now, whereas the Russians are more interested in taking and holding ground, which means having to set up defensive positions. The Ukrainians just want to cut the land bridge off, and that means much more about maneuver. So, ultimately, they still will have to defend that ground. But if they can disrupt the transport of goods across the land bridge to Crimea, that will be a significant military victory for the Ukrainians that will not be affected by the winter.
Right. Cool. Yeah. Right now, oddly enough, the Russians have continued to claim part of the waterway where the beachhead has happened. And yet, and I'll show the map on the live stream, but
that might be where the F-16s actually. That might be where the F-16s
most useful.
Really come.
Well, you can see right here under Oleshki down here. This is where the Ukrainians have made the beachhead and have come in. It's fairly extensive, but Russia's still saying they control these areas, which they by no means do. Which is again calls into question so much of the rest of this territory. This is, I'm looking right now at a 3D map too that shows where the rivers and waterways and lakes and that kind of stuff are.
And the important thing is just to have that toehold, because then you can just push out. So we're getting close. I'm gonna be just absolutely brazen here for a quick moment.
Yeah,
you know how I love to appropriate your audience, so I'm going to do it brazenly right now because we're not going to be able to talk before Christmas, and then I just want to say to everybody. A very Merry Christmas. I am here in Poland, which is so close to the combat zone, and yet there are people out enjoying Christmas, enjoying the holiday season with their family and their loved ones. And it is heartbreaking for me to know that a mere few kilometers away, there's an entire country that, even though they're going to do their very best to celebrate Christmas, you cannot celebrate Christmas fully knowing that your lives are at risk and that you're under constant threat of attack, and that you do live in a war zone. So be joyous this Christmas. Do not despair for the Ukrainians, but spare a thought for them, because this has been a difficult year. Thank you, everybody who has let me come into your homes and try and bring the Ukrainian cause to your homes. I wish you, a happy Christmas and all that, but while not despairing, do give a thought for the Ukrainians.
Absolutely. Well said. And I think that wraps up the show very well. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Johnny, Merry Christmas, and everybody who's listening.
And you, Johnny.
Thanks.
Thank you, Phil.
It'll be
Love
a good time. And now I'm going to bug out as soon as the music starts rolling and head out to LA
tonight,
to go do a show. It'll be a good time. I'm excited. So if you know anybody in the area in LA, send them down to the show. It's fantastic and it's a good time, and I know because I'll be there. All right. All right. Take care of yourself. Take care of somebody else. That's right. And Phil will be on a train where he belongs. Man of many mountains. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. And it's been great.
All right.
And we will have
have
our show next weekend. We will just be doing it from somewhere else in the country, as we often do. So take care, and I'll see you then.
If all goes right.
That's right. Okay.
Merry Christmas,
cheers, everybody. Bye.
Merry Christmas.
See you later. Bye. Excellent. Thanks, Chicago.
Thank you.
All right, bye, everybody. I got to hit the road. Thank you so much, Paul. Oh, I appreciate that. You guys. I can't see Fred's. Hold on. 20. Oh, thank you so much. Yay. Ad time. Thank you guys so much. Slayer, you guys. Like the stream real quick, because I got to shut it down in like a minute. We got 1 minute. Thank you so much. Hit that like. We got 1 minute. TikTok. Merry Christmas. You guys are great. Thank you so much. Redeeming the ad time. Thank you, guys. Come on now. Oh, thank you, Fred, again. Seeing these chats come through. At the Whiskey A Go-Go on the Sunset Strip, folks. That's where I'm headed right now. Just going to drive 4 hours to get there. And turn right around and come back. So I can have Christmas Eve at home. All right. Thank you guys so much. Love you. Countdown. Hit that like before we hit out the door. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Love you too, Toronto. 3, 2, 1. You have liked the stream. Thank you so much. See you later, guys. Nice job, Donald. You got in under the wire.